Hello, I am so glad that you are participating in the Notable Write-a-thon this year. It is so great to challenge yourself as a writer and as a creative. And I think that this sort of challenge, whether it's the write-a-thon or NaNoWriMo or a writing contest, these things all push us to be the best writer that we can be and to go further than we thought possible. And wow, this is a big challenge. 50,000 words in a single month, the month of November, which includes Thanksgiving, digesting the turkey and all the side dishes and all the preparations that go with it, the family time. So this is a pretty short, busy month. But you know what? You can do it. And I'm going to give you a bunch of very helpful advice, I think, that should really, really help you to maintain that momentum, maintain motivation, and also to increase your word count. And I'm also going to let you see beyond this challenge to what comes next, because I think that seeing this challenge as the midpoint in your writing journey is really going to help you to go further instead of stopping after this month is up and just putting that manuscript of yours into a drawer. That doesn't help anyone. So I'm Karena Akhavein. I'm a professional writing coach. Those of you who spend a lot of time on TikTok and especially on Writer Talk or Writing TikTok might actually have seen one or two of my videos. I'm under Writing Coach. And if you want more writing advice, you can always head over to TikTok and check it out there, or you can go to my website, spalmorum.com, where you can also download my self-editing checklist that's going to help you after this write-a-thon challenge. So now on to the advice, or actually, I find that instead of just spewing out advice that makes you just absorb this advice and these tips, it's better to ask you questions that make you think about what's going on and kind of show you that you have all the tools and the know-how and the fortitude to actually figure out a lot of these things on your own. You are the writer that you need to be, and I don't need to force feed the information. You can think about it and see how to motivate yourself and how to do the things that are going to work for you. So let's start with the questions that are going to help you, especially if you encounter some kind of a block at this point in the challenge, because after all, it is already November 6th, which means that maybe that adrenaline has worn off and maybe you're starting to feel a little bit of despair and you're going, uh-oh, have I bitten off more than I can chew? Can I actually make it through this 50,000 word challenge? The answer is yes. But here's some questions, because I think if you're encountering a block and you're starting to procrastinate, you're starting to feel less motivated with this project, the first really important thing that you're going to need to ask yourself is this a motivational or mindset block, or is this a story-based block? Because they're two very different things. I actually wrote a book. This is another thing that you can check out. I actually wrote a book on writer's block, saying that writer's block is actually not why writers fail. There are all kinds of other mechanisms that happen. So one of them being this mindset block, motivational block. Why does this happen? It happens when you don't really see the endpoint or the goal that you have very clearly, or maybe you don't see anymore, or you've forgotten why you're doing this. Because I think that when you're embarking on a huge project like this, it's important to know why you're doing it. And there is no right answer, by the way. Maybe you're doing it to challenge yourself. Maybe you're doing it to feel like more of a real writer. Maybe you're doing it to prove something to yourself or others. Or maybe you're doing it because you've been stuck on this book idea and you haven't really launched it. And you thought, I really need the kick in the pants that a write-a-thon is going to bring me. Any of these answers are fantastic, but I think it's important to have a very authentic, real answer that is true and that resonates for you, because you need to find your why. Whenever you get stuck with your motivation, remind yourself of why you're doing this, and also remind yourself why you're the right person to do this. After all, at the beginning of this challenge, you told yourself, yeah, I'm going to do this, because you believed in yourself. So if that belief in yourself starts to fade over time, you can remind yourself that, hey, at the beginning of this, I thought I was equipped to deal with this. What changed? Did something really change in real life, or am I just petering out? And examine, am I lacking something now? Often when you find that you are starting to lack something midway through, it's not so much a true motivation block anymore. We're now getting on to the story block, where your story has run out of steam. is really important to address this sort of block because I'm going to discuss momentum in just a second. Momentum is something that you want to protect at all costs because it is a powerful forward moving force that really helps you to chug along with your writing. So let's talk about how your story can kind of peter out and slow down. Usually I find that this happens because of a lack of planning. Some of us consider ourselves pantsers, which are people who just start writing and don't really have a plan. They refuse to use an outline. And I'm a strong believer in the outline, or at least just a list of things that need to happen for your character to get from point A to point B, i.e. from their initial situation to the goal situation that they have in their mind. So if your stories run out of steam, ask yourself, okay, where's my character now? Where do they want to be? I mean, emotionally, physically, geographically, in terms of what they've achieved, whatever. Where are they now? Where do they want to be? What are the things that they need to do to get from this point to that point? And now, what are the things standing in their way? These are the obstacles. And having obstacles really, really helps to build that tension, also helps to kind of build out your story, because if your character could just get to their goal with no problem, that wouldn't be easy. Same goes for you in this challenge. If it wasn't a challenge, it wouldn't be as valid. So your character is going to have a challenge. And also, how is your character going to overcome those obstacles? That whole thing, what they need to do, the obstacle, and how they overcome it, that is a scene. Each thing like that is a scene. And your whole book is concocted of a number of scenes. And I find that if you write scene by scene, it really, really helps, because if you don't quite know what needs to go into a scene, if you have a little outline or at least a list of scenes, you can skip that scene. Just write down, Bobby needs to go save this cat. You don't know how it happens, but it's now in brackets. You can go back to it and you can move on to a scene that is actually really motivating you, or that you can really see clearly in your head, and that you can actually write right now. Because that's the thing. What can you write right now? How can you maintain the momentum? You can do that by skipping scenes that aren't so good. Another way that you are going to keep writing your scenes is by not judging yourself for each scene. You want to write a scene, not a good scene, not a poetic scene, not a beautiful scene that somebody else needs to read. Nobody needs to read your writing. This is a rough draft. And that's the beauty of the rough draft, is it's allowed to suck. And so write as if nobody was reading it, because nobody other than you is going to read it. So back to this momentum idea, that in this challenge, 50,000 words in 30 days, including days that you are probably going to be with family, preparing food, doing a Thanksgiving thing, digesting your food. All of these things take time. So I would say you want to front load some of those 50,000 words into the beginning of the month and build as much momentum as possible, so that even if you are starting to slow down, you still have enough to win the challenge. Momentum, as I said, is a positive forward-moving force. Beating your procrastination is the best way to go. And also, if you have ADHD, for example, like I do, if you jump around and keep beating that procrastination or that self-doubt, that's going to be the way to keep moving forward. So you're going to want to get at least 1,600 words done per day. That's not huge. My writers in writing group do a 20-minute writing sprint in the middle of writing group. And in 20 minutes, many of them will get down 800 words. So if you do just 2 writing sprints, that's under an hour in a day, you will get very, very close to that 50,000 word goal. And I have an enormous hack that I'm going to share with you in just a little bit on how to increase your word count drastically. You'll surprise yourself. But first, let's talk about things that sap momentum. One of the things that saps momentum is, as I mentioned, not enough planning, which means that you don't really know what happens next. And so you're going to slow yourself down, and that's not good for anyone. Another thing that can sap momentum is trying to multitask while you're writing, trying to answer emails, take care of kids, cook meals, this and that. And that's why I mention to my writers, I say, you know what, in these challenges, why don't you just buy, who cares, buy the frozen food, order the food, do the DoorDash, do whatever you can, do the simple recipe that you pre-make and that you serve all week long. Just think so that you can just whittle away a tiny bit of time, even an hour per day to write is going to make all the difference for you. And no procrastinating during that time, and no trying to multitask. So a writing sprint is going to prevent you from multitasking, because you have 20 minutes only to get down this whole scene or all these words. So this keeps you from judging yourself, because who could possibly write a great scene in 20 minutes? Pretty much no one. But who can write a scene in 20 minutes? You can. Another thing that can sap your momentum is when you don't see enough progress. So that's a reason why writing these scenes so fast and getting that word count down every day is really important. And I would write down in your calendar or log in online on how many words you've done each day, and that's going to keep you going. You're going to see your progress. I would even maybe fill in a little pie chart each day to see how far I've come. And that's really an important thing, to reward yourself each day for the achievement that you've made. Those rewards keep your brain thinking, wow, this is really worth it. I like this achievement thing. I like these micro goals because they make me feel good. And when you feel good, you're writing well. Another thing that could sap your momentum, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is when you don't have both the short-term and the long-term goals. So if you think that just finishing those 50,000 words is the end-all be-all, you might start to subconsciously slow down as you get to the end. That's why you set your 50,000 word goal as the midpoint. You know darn well in your planning that you're still going to have some words to write, you're going to have some editing to do, lots of cleaning up to do, and then the polishing up, publishing, and marketing as well, whether you're going to be publishing conventionally or self-publishing. Okay, are you ready for my giant hack? Good. I talked about doing these writing sprints and getting 800 words done in 20 minutes. Guess what? You can even get more words done in 20 minutes with dictation and with voice to text technology. So your phone, if you tend to record a lot of things on your phone, or you tend to dictate your text messages, things like that, now you're going to be rewarded for that extra screen time because you've been training your phone to actually understand your particular cadence, so that your phone's going to be pretty good at transcribing your words. This means that you can get down thousands of words per hour. So you're not limited by how fast you can type. We talk a lot faster than we type, even if we are a champion typist. So I'm going to tell you how to use voice to text dictation to get your writing sprints just exponentially more effective. First of all, let's go over these rules, though, of this writing challenge, because the rules are the same as the NaNoWriMo rules, which are 50,000 words in 30 days. 50,000 words of new material. That doesn't mean that you have to be writing an all new book. You could kind of start where you left off. That's okay. But I would say that think about this in a sneaky kind of way. It doesn't need to be 50,000 words that you're going to keep. It doesn't need to be 50,000 perfect words. It doesn't need to be 50,000 words in order. So think about this. You can use character descriptions or backstory as part of your 50,000 words. So if you're stuck and you don't know which scene to write on a certain day, why don't you start dictating or doing a writing sprint of what your character is like psychologically, what they were like when they grew up, what's the backstory behind this or that incident or thing or whatever. And that's some word count that's going to help you in writing your story. You're not going to put all of it into the final thing, but it does really help to round out all the information you're going to be giving your reader. Okay, now I said you could write scene by scene, and you could even write your scenes out of order. This is really important because, again, momentum. So how do you do my speech to text dictation hack? Basically, you are going to pick a scene. So any scene that's one of the things that needs to happen between point A and point B, pick a scene. Now, write down the 5 W's for that scene. My 5 W's are who's in the scene, what is happening in the scene, what's the situation, why is this scene important, how does it move my plot forward, where's the scene happening, and when, at which point in the story is the scene happening. So you're going to write down all of those elements. And now you're going to kind of visualize your scene. If you can do that, close your eyes for a little bit. See the scene as if it were playing out in a movie. And now you start dictating. Dictate that scene. You have to pause every once in a while for the dictation software to get it all down. But with a little practice, this works, and it's not that much practice. It'll work just fine. Or type it out, whichever you want to do. And just keep going until you have that whole scene down. And now, I always say not to self-edit, but you're going to edit just for clarity, because of course the voice recognition software is not perfect. So you're just going to edit a little bit just so that you can understand what you're writing about, so you don't lose any of that meaning. And then you're going to move on to the next scene and the next and the next. And this is such a huge shortcut. I've done thousands of words per day, no problem with this. So if you find that you're falling behind on your challenge, don't give up. Try this hack so that you can catch up, or maybe just front load, win those 50,000 words in the first half of the month, and then you can just spend the rest of the month celebrating. Also, another little hack is that remember that 50,000 words doesn't have to be your whole entire story. It can be part of your story. It can be half of your scenes. We often talk about the three parts of the book, which are the beginning, the end, and the middle. And the middle is often called the mushy middle. So if you want to skip the scenes in the mushy middle for now because you're just not feeling it, you don't really know how they go, do that. Whatever it takes to maintain your momentum. Okay, so now that you have your 50,000 words down, what is the first thing that you should do? The first thing you should do is celebrate. Again, your brain thrives on reward. Celebrate, eat something yummy, buy yourself a little gift to mark this occasion, buy yourself a cool coffee mug, do something you enjoy. Reward yourself by taking yourself out on a creative date. Whatever you want to do, celebration is key. While you're doing this celebration, you also want to give your manuscript a little rest so that you can gain that distance and that objectivity, because it is very hard to be objective about our own work, and you're going to need to do that. So give yourself at least a week to set that aside. And if you can't stand the idea of not working on your book or anything else, why don't you just brainstorm things like a synopsis, or working on your website, or doing social media to move your writing career forward so that you don't feel like you're totally stuck or stopped, and you maintain momentum in some way, but do step away from your story. It's very, very important. Now, when we come back to our story, it's going to be important to self-edit so that we can see what we're missing, what needs to be added, what needs to be taken out, if there are any extra characters that we don't really need, or extra scenes that we need to either put in or take out, all of that good stuff. The first thing you want to do is go through and proofread. Correct your grammar and your spelling, and especially issues with point of view and tense, because it's better to correct them now before you go too far. Believe me, I've been there. It is exhausting to correct all of this after we've written even more words. So just edit yourself for clarity. It doesn't have to be the absolutely most beautiful thing you've ever written in your life at this point, but just edit it so that all of the messy stuff isn't distracting. And now you're going to create a new outline from your rough draft. Write down each scene, the 5 W's, who, what, why, where, when, so that you see what's going on, and it's a much more clear image of what still needs to happen, what has happened so far, what's happening to your characters with your character arcs and your story arcs. For each scene, ask yourself, is this scene crucial to the plot? Does something important happen that is key for my plot? And also for each scene, ask yourself, is this logical within the world of my novel? Would this thing happen at this juncture in the world of my novel? And would this conversation happen in this way? Would this character be acting in this way? That's really important for your reader to just get engaged and stay engaged without being like, hey, that makes no sense. You want to be reading for that in the most objective way possible. You know, at this point, I think it's time for you to probably listen to some more advice from some other awesome writers, listen to some more encouragement, find some writing buddies to do this challenge with you, and definitely check me out. Reach out to me. Let me know how you did at the end of this. I really want to know whether this helped at all. Hope it does. And I wish you the best of luck in your write-a-thon challenge. I know you can do it, and I look forward to seeing what you wrote.